Day 7. Humbly ask God to remove all these defects of character. In early sobriety, I really wanted to take all the credit for getting myself to treatment, and that nobody helped me. But later, as the years go on, I look back and I recall people that were in my life that aided me in making that decision to go into treatment. After my 12 days in Atlanta that we talked about, I spent the next 5 days begging to get into a treatment center. I did so because the day I went to work the next day after having my moment of clarity, I decided to go to treatment, and it happened to be that Dr. Brian was having a drink in my restaurant. Dr. Brian, I knew, had already been in recovery, and I knew that he would tell me where to go. So I went up to him and I said, "Hey man, I need to go to rehab." So he gave me the name of the treatment center that I inevitably went to, and I called them 3 times a day for the next 5 days. Had Dr. Brian not been in the restaurant that day, I don't know that I would have gotten into treatment. Now, we already know that I've spent 7 months in treatment, but I came home after 7 months, and Dr. Brian continued to drink in my restaurant. When I had 9 months sober, Dr. Brian killed himself. And I went into the meeting that day and I was a wreck. I was a wreck. I cried. I told him, if all that was going to come from sobriety was being miserably sober, then what good would it do? So I'm just going, what good is it for me to continue to be sober if I'm going to be miserable? And what I look at now is I see that Dr. Brian was there when I needed him. I'm not one of those people that say someone had to die so I could live. I don't believe that in the least. But I believe that Dr. Brian was on his own path, and it led him to take his own life because he could not find a way to live sober. So when I look at humility in this step, I think about, I finally found a definition for humility that I can relate to, and that is freedom from pride and arrogance. So I start thinking about freedom from pride and arrogance, and I remember sometimes along the way during sobriety that I really struggled with that pride and arrogance. At year 12 in sobriety, the Big Chill lost its lease, and we were forced to move. And that hurt me so bad because, I just wanted to say, look, I've been a good tenant. I've always paid my bills. I've taken care of this restaurant. Back to that functional alcoholic and addict thing that I talked about in step 1. And, I just thought it was so unfair. And it broke me to a point where I really, really wanted to get high. I got through that with people in my life that carried me through it. I lost some people in my life, and that broke me as well, but I had really good friends that, came and washed dishes for me when we reopened, and I had a new partner that really, really had my back, and that kept me from drinking. I really think the most traumatic, though, was in year 17 when my wife filed for a divorce. So I'm going through this divorce. I'm just freshly found out, and it's around Christmas time. And I had her nephew here on Christmas Eve. And I wanted to use so badly that I was on my knees praying. I was on the phone with 2 of my friends telling them if they didn't come and get me, I was going to get high. I had this 2.5-year-old child laying in the bed beside me and not knowing what was going on. And in that moment, I thought, I'll just put off drinking till I get him home. So Christmas Eve came around, I took him to my family's, we had our Christmas Eve, and instead of drinking and using drugs that day, I called the behavioral crisis center, and I put myself in a hospital for 7 days. I felt weak. That made me feel weak. But honestly, that was the strongest thing I could have done. And how am I could not have found that strength on my own. God gave me that strength that day. Him being in my life the night before kept me from drinking, and I was able to put it off, and God gave me that strength. And I can't take credit for anything. God has had his hand on me all along. And when I can believe that and get out of myself, then I can know true humility. I know my humility only through God, because if it's left to me, then I'm riddled with arrogance and pride, and everything I do is based on that. I had a friend that often said to wear life like a loose garment. This gave me enormous freedom from carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. If you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders this holiday season, let us help you to let it go. We can help you find freedom in your life to find just one thing to be grateful for. It's Thanksgiving today, and I'm sure you can find one thing to be grateful for. Happy Thanksgiving. Tune in tomorrow for Step 8.